Welcome to Season 3 of the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, lifelong helper, nonprofit founder, and your host. I've been interviewing the helpers for a decade with my blog, and I'm so grateful to now be sharing these inspiring conversations on our podcast 3 seasons later. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Today, our guests are Jim Elliott, the founder of the Diveheart organization, and Tina Marie Hernandez, the executive director. I'm really excited to share this inspiring conversation about how scuba therapy is changing the lives of people with disabilities. You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome, Jim and Tina Marie. We're so excited to have you here. Today we have Jim Elliott and Tina Marie Hernandez from the Diveheart organization. We're so excited to have you both. We have our founder and our executive director, so we have a dynamic duo in the house with us today, and we're really excited to learn about your incredible work. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here talking with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Tina, take it away.
Well, so why don't we start off with, first of all, Tina, why don't you tell us what the mission of the Diveheart organization is and what exactly it is that you guys do?
Sure. So Diveheart is an organization that works with people with disabilities, physical and cognitive. We're also a training agency for people who want to work safely with people with disabilities in the water. And we use scuba diving as a therapy. So we start people in a pool. We get them to where they're comfortable. We see a lot of self-improvement in the people that we work with. They get confidence. They get just a renewed vigor of life, embracing life sometimes, because we work with people who might have been in an accident. And then we also work with people who've dealt with their condition their entire life. And it's one of those moments where they're like, I'm getting a win. This is a win day for me. And that's something I tell parents and family members, because they're nervous, maybe the first time, or they're not sure if it's going to go. I said, I guarantee your loved one is going to leave with a win today. So they're going to be proud of themselves for something. So that's what we do. We don't cure ailments. What we do is we help people live a better life.
I love that. And as someone who's been a lifelong diver, now I haven't been in a little while, I have to say I had a kind of scary experience in a lava cave with a tube and my tank scraping the back of it. And it just freaked me out that I've taken, I don't know, like a 6-year hiatus. But I will say that I do, when I learned about you guys, I was fascinated because as someone who's been diving, and someone without a disability, that I do not have a disability, but I can tell you the fear that I feel before I go in, the apprehension, you think you can't do this, and then how I feel when I've accomplished it. And I am not dealing with all the challenges that the people that you serve are. And so I know that the feeling that I've had from diving over the years, I'm scared every single time, and I'm elated every time I get out of the water. So, alive, right? Alive, exactly. So I think that's fascinating. But Jim, tell me, you don't just wake up and start a nonprofit. When you're a little boy and people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nonprofit founder doesn't usually make the top of the list. So there's a series of things that happen, right? So tell me that journey and how you got to this point.
Well, I'm a media guy by trade. I'm a journalist. I took diving because I thought if I ever meet someone like Jacques Cousteau, I better know how to scuba dive, right? Really, no burning desire to learn how to dive. All of a sudden, I fell in love with it. As you know, it's a great equalizer. It's like being an astronaut in inner space. It's amazing. So during the 80s, I got involved in, I was on nonprofit boards in the media business. I was at the Tribune, WGN Radio, helped start up a TV station for them. And so I was in the media, I was on these nonprofit organizations. And in the mid 80s, I started guiding and teaching blind skiers because my oldest daughter's blind, and saw how that helped people and said, you can only ski at certain times of the year in certain places in the world. but there's really a pool in every community. So what if I were to do kind of in diving what I've been doing for decades in skiing, and taking people out of wheelchairs and putting them in the water and having them fly, learn to be an astronaut. And that was kind of the premise of the whole idea.
Wow.
And then the logo, I went to an attorney friend whose kids I taught how to dive, and because I became an instructor in 97, and said, this logo can't be available. I'd like to start a nonprofit and kind of do what I've been doing with the Blind Ski Group. And he went and checked it out and said, Jim, good news. He said, I talked to my partners and we can do all your trademark work and your 501c3 incorporation pro bono.
That's great. Oh my gosh. So what year was that?
That was 2001 we incorporated. This is our 20th anniversary.
Happy anniversary. That's fantastic. That's big.
Now I get to tell people we're not a flash in the pan, right? We're here to stay. But you hit 20, you're good. At least
you're solid. Well, and I've been interviewing nonprofit founders for about a decade, and I've interviewed everyone from people that are literally just launching to people that have been around for a long time. And, most of my nonprofit founders are alive, thank goodness, right? Because like the founder of the Girl Scouts, she's no longer with us, right? So it's really great for me to see the longevity of something. And when someone sets out to do something, to be an entrepreneur, to start a business, to serve other people, it's hard. It's hard work, and it's hard to keep going. And it would be really easy, just like starting a business, to say, this got a little hard and I'm going to stop. So tell me some of the challenges you've faced in the past 2 decades, because obviously it is not easy work and there's challenges all the time. But tell me about some of the challenges that you've faced in this process.
Well, I think one of them is just continuing to evolve, right? I mean, that's the challenge for everyone as a human being, as an organization, right? Whether you're a for-profit business or non-for-profit business. And when you were just saying about everyone you've interviewed, is that we are kind of the embodiment right now of what is the backup plan, right? What's the next step? I mean, we want Jim around forever, but when that comes to an end for one reason or another, I'm kind of now getting in place to be the next step, right? And we talk about that a lot. But the challenges are to ever evolve, to keep our finger on the pulse of what is changing. And we've been inclusive since before inclusivity was the thing, the word, right? But as a nonprofit who needs help with funding, all of our pool programs are free. So we need people to give to us. And, 99% of the money that we get in to help us run our programs are from individuals. So it's about getting the word out and letting them know that, yes, you're giving us money so that we can help people in the pool, because even though it's free for them, it's not always free for us. Right. So that's a challenge, like, keep doing. What else do you see, Jim?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think the relationships that we develop over the years are very important. The media contacts and friends that I've developed in businesses in the Chicagoland area are invaluable. I mean, people are always going, well, why don't you go down to the Keys, or why don't you go to or set up shop there?
A little chilly in Chicago.
I said, I'm close to every diving spot in the world, because all I have to do is go to O'Hare or Midway Airport, and I can be around the world. So, but relationships, we foster them and value them. And if we have a donor, like for example, we have a documentary called Turning Point that was done, that airs on PBS every now and then. And we had somebody from Southern California call us, and this lady says, my husband and I watched Turning Point last night and we cried. Where do we send a check? And 5 years later, that donation, knock on wood, has increased every year. And we just make sure she knows everything, all the good stuff that we're doing, so she knows that her investment or her donation is going places.
See, I love that.
Yeah, that is
go ahead.
And one thing that Jim has us, he does personally still, but I'm getting into it as well, as for every donation that we have contact affiliation with, that we can say, we write a personal note, personal thank you. So we're big, but we're still small enough to do that, right?
And I think sometimes one of the challenges I know that I face is managing relationships, because we're small organizations. We're trying to do our program. We're trying to serve people that we're serving. And then we need to be communicators to our donors. We need to communicate stories like we are right now on this podcast to share our good work. And then we need to constantly be talking and engaging with all of those people that are wonderful supporters of ours. But sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day, right? I mean, it's
never is, right?
There never is. And I say this, I use the analogy that the bucket is heavy, because I feel like, if we were businesses that were manufacturing something, we just go to bed at night, say, okay, we didn't make enough, whatever we're making. But for us, you literally physically have the backs of people that you're trying to serve as many people as you can. And if you didn't do XYZ, so-and-so isn't going to get this experience, so-and-so. And so we carry a different weight. Our bucket is heavy because we carry humanity. We carry people who we're trying to help. And that can be difficult. And I don't think people realize how hard that can be. So what fuels you both to keep going when it's kind of one of those days where you're like, I didn't get all the notes done. I didn't get everything didn't happen. What keeps you going?
I think, we kind of put it as it's one bite out of the elephant at a time, right? And sometimes I come back at them and I'm just like, that elephant keeps getting bigger. Like, but
I hear that.
But so one of the gifts I give myself is, I talked about the pool programs, and I'm so much into the office side of things and paying the bills and processing stuff and making sure that everything is in order, that one of the gifts I give myself is to go to our pool programs and to interact directly with the people in the pool, to talk to the family members or the volunteers and things like that. Those are gifts that I give myself, because that really energizes me to see smiles and things like that. And then and to be able to talk about Diveheart. We do a lot of presentations, and, being able to talk about Diveheart is a wonderful experience as well. And it really reminds me, it's funny because I don't think about me getting passionate about it. And whenever I end up talking to someone, because they accidentally go, so what do you do with Diveheart? They're like, gosh, you're so passionate. I'm like, really? But they see it. I might not see it so much, but they can see it in my face. And that always makes me happy too, because I'm like, you don't want to lose that passion. There's a reason we started this work. It's not going away. There are always going to be people with disabilities, always with, and you want to be able to show them, if we could, every person in the world, about how valued and, and helping them find their purpose. And we do that for our volunteers as well as our participants. And it's amazing to see those interactions. Anyway, go ahead, Jim.
A very simple thing that I do in the morning when I do not want to get up and do anything. I just say, 90% of success is showing up. Oh, wow. And even though I'm dragging, I know something good is going to happen. Somebody's going to say, thank you for what you do. And that is fuel for my engine. And we try to follow the challenge by choice philosophy. So we understand that life gets in the way for a lot of our volunteers. So we say, look, do as much or as little as you can or you want to. And I was famous for, and Tina helped me kind of wean off of this, I was famous for giving you, a brand new volunteer, all the responsibility that you asked for. And then, of course, you get scared to death and you don't show up the next day. So that's something I would tell other nonprofit leaders. If you're new, take your time, challenge by choice, let them get into it, and you'll see who's real. The cream will come to the surface.
And the other thing I've learned so much from Jim in the 10 years that I've been working with him and with Diveheart. But one of the things also is, sometimes we're very yin and yang, the two of us, but
it's great.
Sometimes I'm more hesitant about stepping forward and saying, oh, so-and-so says they're going to do blah, 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 blah. And he's all over it. And I'm just kind of, let me check. And then I've learned over time that you sometimes have to take that opportunity. Life happens for everybody. And if someone's willing to give 110%, And then all of a sudden it seems like they didn't even realize it. Like they come to us going, I'm going to do this for you guys forever. And then 3 months later, something happens in their life that makes them pull back. And, I don't want to be where we could have had that opportunity with them that we missed because I didn't, so there's a balancing act, but that's another thing. Like if people come to us and say, we want to do a fundraiser with you, we want to do this with you, we want to volunteer with you, I'm getting better at going, okay, let's see where this goes and let's see how this works out, because it might be, this is the opportunity we get now and we're not going to have it. Opportunity knocks, right? The bus will come around again, but it might not be the same bus, right?
It's right. And it's tricky. I mean, volunteers are fantastic and wonderful and amazing, and their intentions are always so good. But it's running organizations of the volunteers, which I do as well for the nonprofit that I run. It comes with some challenges, right? It comes with some challenges. And so, they're giving of their time. And if something presents itself that takes that away, then you're kind of like, oh, okay. Like what happens here? So yeah, I live that. I hear you on that one loud and clear. So one of the things that I kind of love and hate is the word impact. I love that people, donors, foundations, they want to know our impact. I love that we're setting goals for ourselves and we're holding ourselves accountable. We're our worst critics. We're always trying to serve more, do more, help more, raise more. I mean, it never ends. We're worse than anybody. But I hate impact because I feel like, how do you measure an experience when I teach leadership and you're giving self-esteem? It's this, we're both giving intangible experiences to children or people with disabilities. And you can't measure a life-changing experience, right? You can't measure that in a grant. You can't measure someone who feels like they can do anything because of their experience with you in the pool. So when I ask you the evil question of what is your impact, Ben, knowing that I have mixed feelings on the word, what is impact to you? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be numbers served or dollars raised. It's whatever it is to you.
Well, as a journalist, I'm a big storyteller and believe in stories and the power they have. So we have been very successful in getting a lot of media coverage. I've done 2 TED Talks, NBC Nightly News has done stuff, PBS, all the networks, CNN. And those to me are jewels. Those are gems that we have. And those are on our YouTube channel and playlists. So if I want to talk to a medical group, we have a medical playlist. We've done 11 symposiums on adaptive scuba. We have a military playlist, so we can put that documentary about veterans with disabilities and the impact it's made on them, and for them to talk to the camera and say, "This is what it's done for me." That moves people. I could talk all day long, but when they say it and they're in a wheelchair, they get attention that I couldn't get.
That's amazing. Can I hire you?
No.
Can we hire you for PR? Tina Marie's like, no. Tina Marie, what would you say your impact is? What do you think?
I do measure it partially the way that Jim does. A lot of times it's the stories, the individuals, and I think you'll agree too, we might work with a lot of people look at impact. How many people did you help? Did you help 200? Right. Did you help 300? And I understand why they ask that. I try and remind myself sometimes about also individuals. So we have one particular individual who we've been working with her since she was 3 months past her very life-changing accident that, she's now incomplete quadriplegic. She got injured at 19. You don't know what you're going to do with your life at 19, no matter what. Right. But we met her. She was still in her anger phase, which is again, understandable. She was a very decorated athlete before this accident. But this last week, she announced how she's out of her community college program, is now going to a 4-year program to finish her degree. And yeah, I can't say Diveheart did all the work. We didn't, but we helped get her that spark. I know we did. She's worked with us and her whole life has changed. Her family life has changed. They're all international travelers now. She was invited to go to Thailand, like without us. Like they're just like, you are amazing. You need to come to Thailand. And she did. And she's been inspiring to people who without disabilities to get certified. They're like, well,
wow,
I didn't want to get certified. I have a mom who's like, I didn't want to get certified or get in the water until I saw her, because she has a son with on the autism spectrum. She has a husband who's an avid diver, could never convince her. And after she went on a trip and met this young woman, she goes back, and she didn't tell her husband, but she went to the scuba shop that her husband works with. And she's like, I want to take another test in the water. And she's telling this to the instructor. He's like, really? Why? And she's like, I want to make sure I don't like it. And he's like, whatever. Okay. And so he did. And she ended up getting certified, and she's going to be on this trip that we're going on. And but it wasn't anybody else but this young woman, seeing her coming up out of the water with this smile on her face, with her energy, and saying, maybe I am missing out on something. And to me, those are the impact. I can't measure that impact.
No,
but because that person's life is better, I know, when he's like, I hope we can reach as many people as we can. I go, but you've changed so many lives already. The work's never done, but give yourself a half a second to kind of breathe in.
And the ripple effect of that change, right? I mean, just the girl that you're just, I feel like sometimes as nonprofit founders and executive directors, we're the passionaries. We have the torch, and our job is to kind of ignite everybody else with our passion, which you talked about earlier, Tina Marie. And I think that, but when you see those that we serve, that we've given that spark to them, and then they have carried it on, to me, that's what I call payday. We don't do this for money. We don't do that. We do this for that. And when you see that you've served someone, that you've helped them, and then they're in turn helping somebody else, that's why we do this work. That's the real win.
I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said ripple effect, because what we do, and what's really cool about what we do, is it can happen so fast. The first pool session can be so powerful because, number one, it's not natural to breathe underwater. So
no, it's not.
The thing that happens to everybody that puts their face in the water and breathes in off that tank, and it changes the way they think then, and the way they experience life.
Right.
And what we like to do is say that we take the unrealized human potential and we create a paradigm shift. So now it's not Johnny in a wheelchair, it's Johnny the scuba diver. And then what we do is, once they have this new identity, we point them towards being a good steward of the environment, get into marine biology or train or whatever, just be a helper and do good in the world. And we try to help them go in that direction. And they inspire people around them. Like you said, the ripple effect. And this girl that Tina was talking about, she came to us and said, "You changed my daughter's life. Thank you so much."
Oh,
and that's fuel.
I think it's kind of addictive. My husband always says he's like, Heidi, seriously, like, could you be hooked on anything else? I mean, he skis, he's a triathlete, he scuba dives. I do all these things to keep up with this guy. And I'm like, no, this is more addictive to me. The thrill of changing someone's life, or knowing that you've got a tiny hand in a bigger picture, is as thrilling as the deepest dive or the shark dives I did in Tahiti and all the other crazy things that man, has dragged me on. God, I love my husband dearly, but I take him for the team for this one. But I do think that those moments are exactly why we do this work, and why this work's so important, because the world needs so much of this.
The moments, seeing people become ambassadors and not just participants, because we get so many ambassadors out of it. And it's great to enable those people to help us as well. Right. And then the amount of people that come back and work with us year over year over year. And some never go on a trip. Some never get out of the pool, but they become family, right? Because we see them. So
I love that.
And it's about community. So that's good.
It's your 20-year anniversary. I'm sure when you started this gym, you were just thinking about that moment, that day, that week, that next second. You were not thinking about 1 year, 5 year, 10 or 20. But if you could dream any dream for Diveheart, what does that look like?
Wow, I'm glad you asked that question. You're right, though. It's the process. It's finishing the drill you're doing right now. And it's not thinking about winning the game. It's about getting that play, doing that play effectively. But one of our long range goals is, and we've been at it for a bit, is to build a deep warm water therapy pool so that we can replicate some of the things, the benefits we see in open water. For example, second day of a dive trip, somebody will roll up in a wheelchair and go, Jim, I've been in chronic pain for 15 years. This is the first time I've been pain-free since my injury. And we know now after doing research with university medical centers that can last up to 2 weeks after the trip.
Really?
Yeah. You're pain-free that week, and you don't have to take meds for 2 weeks after. So if we can get people in the water on a regular basis, deep enough, we can then help replicate that. And anxiety and PTSD symptoms, I think we all get calmer underwater, like you were saying earlier. Doctors from Johns Hopkins did a study with one of our teams and said, if you get people to 66 feet underwater, there's an extra output of serotonin that helps with the pain management. But also 80% of the people in this study, the veterans in this study with PTSD, 80% of their symptoms were alleviated during that week. So now, if you're on anxiety meds, what if you're able to get in the pool two times a week? Maybe you don't need them, right? So that's what we want to discover, is how we can benefit people, and we can then train thousands and thousands and thousands of people, because we'll be a destination. So that facility is what we're that's our vision.
Yeah,
researchers that is a great vision.
Yeah, researchers to know what they're getting into. And so the ocean isn't always, it has a lot of variables. And so it does eliminate some of those variables for them and really get some of the research that we see, one, that's needed, but two, things that we can't even think of, and have the researchers come. Just this year, we have implemented a program where we're able to speak to now occupational therapists, physical therapists, and recreational therapists, and they can listen to us for an hour and get learn about scuba therapy and how they might incorporate that into their practice and get a continuing education credit. So
that's great.
That's huge for us to be. I really want to influence this next group of people coming out and starting their practices, but also talk to some people who are already in their practices and seeing where we can move with that, because that's another, we're not medical people, but to be able to get the medical people to start using scuba therapy and really using it as a therapy that they can provide would be awesome.
That's amazing. Well, because it just isn't top of mind, right? You're thinking, I have a great nonprofit founder that I should connect you guys with. His name is Hal Hargrave, and he founded Be Perfect Foundation. You can listen to his podcast. And he was a young athlete who became a quadriplegic, and he started an organization that provides wheelchairs, physical rehabilitation. He goes and meets people at the hospital after their accident, and they take them all the way through for converting their houses, everything. He's about, I don't know, maybe 30 now, married, has a great life. He's just the most amazing human I've ever met, one of them. And I think, when you're thinking about it, he's here in LA where I'm based, but you don't think about scuba as part of that therapy, right? It just isn't top of mind. It just isn't top of mind. So I think to change that narrative is really exciting, because there is so many amazing things that happen when you're in the water. It's scary and fun and wonderful and all of those great things. So, all of this stuff, 20 years, 10 years, this time doesn't come without, this journey does not come without wisdom and some life lessons that you learn along the way. We are in a, privileged position to see the best in humanity sometimes. And sometimes sometimes the worst. Sometimes we see a lot of pain, but out of that, I think we gain an insight that I think a lot of people don't have that privileged position that we have in the work that we do. So I'd love to hear from both of you some of the life lessons you've learned in your time with Diveheart.
Well, one of the things that keeps us going and able to adapt is when we are hit with an obstacle, right? We identify the positive side, take lemons and make lemonade, basically. So our perspective is everything at the beginning. So we see, for example, I was telling you earlier, they raised our rent 700%. So now how do we turn this? How do we turn it into something positive? And then what action do we take that's going to really be meaningful at this moment, and just stay with it and then persevere, so, take that obstacle, turn it around. We've been successful doing that many times. Like during COVID, one of our instructors got COVID, was on a ventilator for 12 days. They gave him last rites in the hospital. He survived, thank goodness. But we canceled 11 trips and 200 pool programs. And out of nowhere, 5 occupational therapy doctoral candidates came to us and said, we want to do our residencies with you in our capstone projects. So that's where we can do CEUs now, for PTs, OTs, and recreational therapists. And that is just one of the things we were able to do during COVID. Of course, we're doing the website and the database and all that stuff is part of, and servicing all your gear and all that. But it's that, and being able to identify all the opportunities, like turning over all the rocks. Tina gets crazy because sometimes I'm like always going, well, let's look at this. Let's do that. Let's do that. And she's like, oh God, really again?
But I agree with you. I mean, there's a great book, and maybe you've read it, but it's called "The Obstacle Is the Way." I don't know if you've heard about it, but
50 times. I've read it 50 times.
So there you go. I mean, that book, and it's true when we feel like someone's thrown this in our direction. It's really a sign from the universe to say, turn around. There's something to do. There's a better path. There's something really exciting if you go this way. And I'm throwing this down for a reason. This is happening for you, not to you. And I think that if the world looked at obstacles as the gift that they are, even though they don't feel that way when they arrive, like I'm sure that rent notice did not feel like a gift when it showed up.
Yeah.
It's a way to look at the world without feeling put upon. Right. It's a challenge about, okay, it was funny. I thought of my nephew when he was little. He was maybe 1.5, and he was in my mother's garden, and we watch him walking around. He got himself into a corner, and my dad says, "What are you going to do now?" And he goes, "I go this way." And he just turned around and went another direction. And that's kind of what you're talking about. And we love that book, The Obstacle Is the Way. We actually re-listen to it whenever we have a long drive. We're like, all right, let's just start. And at any point in the book, and we just start listening to it. You always get something new out of it.
We refer to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're obviously like-minded because I love that book. So I haven't read it 15 times, but it is a good one. So Tina Marie, what life lessons do you think that you've learned on this journey?
Well, one of the ones that I've learned that I still work on is it's all going to work out. Right. I come from a business background in corporate business, and, it's about results and getting stuff done and, making sure you have everything in place, blah, blah, blah. And I have it's funny because I have been dragging slowly coworkers who've retired or who are like, I need purpose. I'm like, come find it with me. And we joke because they're kind of the same type of person I am. It's got to have blah, 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 blah. And one of them called me and she's like, Tina, I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have this. I go, it's all going to work out. Just let's channel Jim. It's all going to work out. Cause he doesn't panic about anything ever. And it always works out. So I'm like, he's proven to me that it will. So we joke because then like 4 days later, she'll call me. She's like, you're right. It all worked out. 2 people who I thought were going to show up, didn't show up. And so we had just the right amount of people at the, and you still think like you still plan, okay, what are we going to try and do if it all happens the way we're afraid it's going to happen? But, it does all work out. And like I said, I try not to waste energy now worrying. I want to use that energy to either be prepared or get something else done that needs to get done, because worrying isn't helping me at all. So that's what I mean by it's all going to work out. It doesn't mean you just let it go, but you can only do so much and don't waste your energy.
Right. You can only do so much. And I think that a lot of people need to hear that. I think that, I always say that people have a worry gene. I did not inherit the worry gene. I don't worry. But I see people that do. And I think that we have so much to do in this work that there's just no time. There's not enough time for worrying. Like we have so much we have to accomplish in a day. We have people to help. We have lives to save.
Maybe it's your entrepreneurial spirits that get that. I don't feel myself as an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm very much the delivery girl. It's like, oh, it's sold, and over the fence it goes to Tina. But so maybe that's your blessings, and that you don't have that, because we need you to start stuff. And like I said, I'm constantly learning. That's still something I'm trying to fully embrace.
I think people don't think of nonprofits founders as being entrepreneurs, which is exactly what they are. And an entrepreneur of even a more hardy type, I would say, because our business is relying on the kindness of others. We not only are serving people, but then we're asking people to come join us in this mission. And it's not really a fantastic business model when you think about it. It's really not, the ideal business model. And yet we all make it work. To your point, Marie, it always works out. We always make it work somehow, some way. And that's, I think, why these stories are so important to share with people, because you are entrepreneurs, you are running businesses, successful businesses, and you are serving the world and making it better. I mean, it just doesn't, that's the best business I can think of. I mean,
it's like when I started, I'm like, wait a minute, I get to scuba dive and help people with disabilities. I mean, I get to do this. This is cool.
What's not to love, right?
I'm in. Sign me up. And when I started, it was very interesting because, way less than 1% of the population scuba dives. Period.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, way less than 1%.
I feel special now, Jim. I feel special.
You are. And now some people with disabilities, it's the last thing on the radar. So when I went out there, I'm really enthusiastic, and I'm telling all the dive shops and operators and people I know, saying, yeah, I'm going to do this, and come on, join me, and I'll train your instructors, and you'll be able to do this in your community. And I've been in Lion, I've been a Rotarian, I'm all about service, and I know how to build those things in different communities, and we do that all over the world. And they go, Jim, why would we do this? They go, number one, people with disabilities probably don't have money. Number two, it's a lot of work, and number three, what about the liability? Aren't you afraid you're going to hurt somebody and blah blah blah? And I said, that's okay. I'm doing it anyway. And one guy, I remember we have hats with our logos. And I said, if you put this hat with our logo in your store, you can raise like $20 and give a percentage to us and help our nonprofit. He goes, why would I do that when I could put a $20 hat in my store and keep all the profit?
Oh my God.
And I said, you know what? You're a good businessman. I said, but we're not going anywhere. He's turned out over the last 20 years to be one of our biggest donors.
Oh,
but you never burn a bridge.
Never, ever, ever.
That's a good lesson, is never burn a bridge.
That's a great lesson. And I also think the lesson in tenacity, in passion, in perseverance, in consistency, in showing up. I mean, all the lessons you've shared with us are things we all need to be reminded of every single day, of what's important. I mean, and service. I mean, service is the holy grail to me of gratitude and everything, leadership and everything that matters. So I'm so grateful for the two of you sharing your story. I want to hear how we can support you, where we can donate, how we can volunteer. Tell us how the best way to find you guys.
Well, our website is diveheart.org. We are on Facebook, and we love Facebook because if you start a Facebook fundraiser to support Diveheart, Facebook gives us every penny, not just a percentage, or they don't take anything off the top. So we love that. And the this will air after 2020. Maybe I'll do it for 2022 as well. For 2021, I promised, and I have donated to every single person who has started a Diveheart fundraiser on Facebook.
Oh, I love that.
So I took that on because I never want someone to be sad that no one donated to their Facebook fundraiser for Diveheart.
I think that's fantastic. Do you guys have Instagram?
We do. We have Instagram. We're getting better at Instagram. We're actually looking for someone to help us with our social media marketing.
Yeah, if you know anybody, send them our way.
Because we've tried a number of times, and Jim and I mean, you just have a lot, and there's always something new. Like I know how to say TikTok. Don't know what exactly we would, and people are like, oh, you should TikTok that. Oh, you should. I'm like, seriously, don't know. So I would love someone to like show up in our universe that could help us with that wants to do it, because we could give them all sorts of stuff. We just don't have that person. Right now.
Think about what kind of business you are in, meaning your audience, and how you might be able to take what you do and assist us, because we're big on partnerships, right? So if you're a lawyer, rather than asking you for a $10,000 check, could you help us do some pro bono stuff? We have a copier guy, we have a car guy, we have, you know what I mean? And now I'm getting $1 million in services that I don't have to pay for, because our friends are partnering with us and helping take care of some of this stuff that we need to go forward.
Money's great too, though.
It is.
Money always makes me happy. And we're doing things like in 2022, we're going to do the first Women of Diveheart trip. I don't know if you're aware that in scuba diving,
I might need to go on vacation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
In scuba diving, it is still very male dominated. And I've been asked more than once, do you have women instructors or women who dive with you with disabilities? And I'm just like, yes, we do. So we're going to go and we're going to do a little hoorah trip, and we're going to make it environmental. We're going to be learning about how to save the environment as well, and having some female entrepreneurs out of the either environmental universe or the scuba universe and be able to do this trip. But we are going to be looking for sponsors. So that's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, you two are such bright lights. Thank you for all you are doing. Thank you for bringing the gift of scuba, for bringing the gifts of self-esteem and confidence and changing all these people's lives. I mean, what a beautiful story. And I'm just so grateful you got to share it with our audience today.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
As you're starting your nonprofit, you're going to be presented with some situations that you may not be comfortable with. I would recommend always stay on the high road, maintain your integrity.
I think that's really good advice. That's a great way. It's a great way to wrap this up. Thank you, Tina Marie. Thank you, Jim Elliott. You two are amazing. And we are so excited to support Diveheart and see what happens with this new building and deep pool and all these great things that I know are going to happen. I think that dream is well on the path. So thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I really enjoyed talking to our guests today, Tina Marie Hernandez and Jim Elliott, about what it takes to start a business that truly changes people's lives. I think Jim's comment about the obstacle is the way was so inspiring and true. To learn more about these modern day heroes like Jim, or if you'd like to reach out to us, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love it if you shared it with your friends and family. And don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcast. Remember that together we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. See you next time.